They thought he was just a man with a dog. That was their first mistake. The ferry from Victoria to Vancouver cuts across the Strait of Georgia on a gray Tuesday morning in late October. The water is the color of old pewter. The sky sits low and heavy, the kind of sky that doesn't threaten rain so much as promise it. Most passengers have already retreated inside to the warmth of the upper cabin, wrapping their hands around paper cups of Tim Hortons coffee. A few remain on the lower passenger deck, an elderly couple sharing a crossword, a young mother wrestling a stroller through the narrow aisle, a teenager with headphones the size of satellite dishes staring at his phone. And then there is Trent. Trent Mallory sits near the back of the lower cabin, beside the large window that frames the passing gray water. He is 38 years old, with the kind of stillness that people mistake for boredom, and the kind of eyes that miss nothing. He wears a dark green canvas jacket worn at the elbows, no insignia, no patches. His hands rest flat on his thighs. Beside him, occupying the aisle seat the way another passenger might, sits Atlas. Atlas is a German shepherd with a black saddle and tan legs and a chest like a barrel. He weighs just under 40 kilograms. His ears are up. They are always up. He watches the cabin the way Trent watches the cabin, steadily, without urgency, without alarm. He has been trained to assess a room in under 4 seconds. So has Trent. Trent is on leave. 2 weeks, signed and approved. The first proper leave he has taken in 14 months. He is a petty officer first class with Naval Special Warfare, deployed out of Esquimalt, and he has not slept a full night since March. He is going to his sister's place in North Vancouver. There will be her husband's cooking and her kids climbing on Atlas, and maybe, if Trent is lucky, 3 or 4 nights where his brain finally agrees to be quiet. Atlas shifts his weight and leans his shoulder against Trent's leg. Trent doesn't look down. He just moves his hand to the back of the dog's neck, once, briefly, and then sets it back on his own thigh. The ferry is 40 minutes from the Tsavasan terminal when the men come down from the upper deck. There are 3 of them. They are not quiet about it. Their boots are heavy on the stairs, their voices carrying over the hum of the engines. The tallest one, thick through the shoulders, shaved head, a snake tattoo climbing out of his collar, leads the way. Behind him, a lean man with a red jacket and restless hands, the kind of hands that pick at things, touch things, never stay still. The third is younger, heavier, wearing a Canucks jersey with a grease stain on the shoulder. He is laughing at something, the tall one said, a loose, easy laugh, the laugh of someone who has not yet had to answer for the things he does. The tall one's name is Dex. That is what the other 2 call him. Dex said with a kind of deference. Dex this, Dex that. Dex decides where they sit, and Dex decides they will sit in the back of the lower cabin, which means moving through it first, which means taking their time about it. Trent registers them at the top of the stairs. He does not look at them again. Dex and his companions work their way down the aisle slowly, too slowly for a cabin with open seats. The elderly couple with the crossword tuck closer together. The young mother keeps her eyes on her phone, but her shoulders climb toward her ears. The teenager pulls one headphone off, then thinks better of it and puts it back on. Dex stops at the elderly couple. He doesn't say anything for a moment. He just stands there, looking at the man's wallet sitting on the seat beside him. It must have fallen out of his pocket, and then he picks it up. The old man says, "That's mine." Dex opens it, takes out 2 20s, sets the wallet back on the seat. "Thanks," he says. The old man's wife puts her hand on her husband's arm. He doesn't move. He is smart enough not to move. Dex pockets the money and keeps walking. The lean man in the red jacket is already moving to the mother with the stroller. He sits down in the empty seat across from her, close, too close, and smiles. "Long trip?" he says. She says nothing. "Don't be like that," he says. Trent watches this from his peripheral vision. He does not turn his head. Atlas has gone very still beside him, the kind of still that is not relaxation but its opposite, the stillness of a spring under tension. Trent rests one hand on Atlas's back, not a command, just contact, not yet. There is a system for reading a room under stress. You learn it early in the teens. You identify the threats in order of proximity and capability. You identify the exits. You identify who in the room can move and who cannot. You calculate the variables and you wait, because movement too early costs you information. And information is everything. Dex reaches the back of the cabin. He looks at Trent. He looks at Atlas. He grins, the kind of grin that is not friendliness but its performance. "Nice dog," he says. "What kind?" Trent looks up at him. "German Shepherd." "Yeah?" Dex pulls out the chair across the aisle and sits in it backward, arms folded over the back. "He bite?" "Only when I ask him to." The Canucks jersey laughs. He has settled into the seat directly behind Trent. Trent notes this without turning around. Dex leans forward on his arms. "You got a sense of humor. I like that. Listen, friend, we're doing a collection. Helping out some community projects. Whatever you can spare." "I can't spare anything," Trent says. The grin stays, but the eyes change. "That's not a great answer. It's the only one I have." Dex glances at Atlas. Big Dog takes up a lot of space, taking a seat like that, inconsiderate. Atlas watches Dex with his amber eyes. His ears are forward. He is reading the man the way he has been trained to read men. Posture, breath rate, hand. Dex's right hand is moving toward his jacket pocket. Trent says, very quietly, "Don't." Dex stops. Something in the word. Not a request. Not a warning, exactly. Something flatter and more certain than either. Dex looks at him for a long moment. Then he stands up, straightening his jacket. "Smart guy," he says. He looks at the Canucks jersey and jerks his chin. They start to move away. Trent watches them in the window reflection. He watches Dex lean down to the young mother as he passes and say something that makes her flinch. He watches the lean man take the crossword from the elderly couple's seat and drop it on the floor, because they can. Because they want to make sure everyone in this cabin understands what kind of morning this is going to be. Then Dex turns back. He is looking at Atlas. There is something in his face that Trent has seen before, a particular kind of cruelty that presents itself as boldness. Men who hurt animals in public to demonstrate power over the humans watching. Dex takes one step toward Atlas, foot drawing back. Atlas doesn't move. Trent's hand comes down on Dex's wrist before the kick lands. He doesn't squeeze. Doesn't need to. He just holds the wrist with the calm certainty of a man who has disarmed people in the dark, in the water, in conditions that would unmake most men entirely. The message is not in the grip. It is in the absence of hesitation. Dex freezes. "I'll break it," Trent says simply. Not loud, not angry, the same tone you'd use to describe the weather. "Let go of me. Take your guys and go upstairs." The lean man in the red jacket is moving. Trent sees it in the window reflection. He releases Dex's wrist, turns and catches the man's arm mid-swing, redirecting the momentum so cleanly that the lean man goes into the seat beside him with a sound like a bag of groceries dropped on a counter. It takes 1 second, maybe less. The Canucks jersey is on his feet. Atlas stands. He does not growl. He does not bark. He simply stands, all 40 kilograms of him, and looks at the Canucks jersey with a directness that is somehow worse than aggression. The man looks down at the dog, and his body makes the decision before his brain does. He sits back down. The cabin is very quiet. The elderly man has his wife's hand. The young mother is holding her child against her chest. The teenager has both headphones off now. Phone up. Recording. There are moments in the life of every person watching that they will not forget. Not because of what happened, but because of what didn't. Because a man who could have hurt people badly chose not to. Because the thing that looked like restraint was the most powerful thing in the room. Dex is standing straight now, wrist at his side, expression recalibrated. He is trying to figure out what he is dealing with. His instincts are working, but they are slow, and what they are telling him does not match what his eyes see. A man in a worn jacket with a quiet dog, sitting on a ferry, not even breathing hard. "Who are you?" Dex says. Trent doesn't answer. He sits back down. He looks out the window at the gray water. He rests his hand on Atlas's back. Atlas remains standing for another 15 seconds, watching the three men. Then he sits. Then he leans his shoulder against Trent's leg again. Dex looks at the lean man who is getting carefully to his feet. They have a conversation with their eyes. Then Dex looks once more at Trent, and there is something new in his face. Not respect, but its cousin. The thing that precedes respect in men who have never been stopped before. He turns and walks toward the stairs. The lean man follows. The Canucks jersey is last, still looking at Atlas, and Atlas watches him all the way to the top of the stairs. The cabin exhales. The young mother starts crying quietly, into her child's hair. The elderly man picks up the crossword from the floor, smooths it on his knee, and says nothing. The teenager is still filming. Trent looks out the window. He is thinking about his sister's couch, and whether she still has that old wool blanket he likes. He is thinking about nothing. He is thinking about everything. 20 minutes later, the ferry slides into Tsawasan. There are 2 RCMP officers waiting at the terminal. It takes Trent a moment to realize they are waiting specifically at the lower cabin exit, speaking quietly into radios. The teenager, it seems, had presence of mind. The officers board as the passengers begin to disembark. Trent stays in his seat. Atlas stays in his. One of the officers, a woman, Constable Reyes. Her nameplate, catching the overhead light, stops when she sees him. "Sir, are you the individual who intervened?" Trent says. "I didn't intervene, I just asked them to leave." She looks at him for a moment. She looks at Atlas. "Do you have ID?" He hands her his military identification. She looks at it, looks at him. "Petty Officer Mallory." "That's right." She is quiet for a moment, the particular quiet of someone doing a rapid recalculation. "The 3 men are being detained upstairs. We'll need a statement." "Sure. Are you injured?" "No." "Is your dog?" "He's fine." She nods. She crouches down to Atlas's level, not reaching for him, just dropping to his eye line, which Trent notices and appreciates. Atlas regards her with his amber eyes. She says quietly and mostly to herself, "Good boy." Atlas's ears move forward once, briefly. High praise for him. What the constable did not yet know, and what would become clear over the next 48 hours, was that Dex, whose full name was Dexler Muro, 29, originally from Surrey, was not simply a man who robbed commuters on ferries. He was the collecting arm of something considerably larger, an operation that had been quietly noted by both the RCMP and the Combined Forces Special Enforcement Unit for the better part of 2 years, run by a man named Taggart, who no one on the Lower Mainland could seem to pin down. Taggart did not get his hands dirty. He had people like Dex for that. Young, hungry, deniable. What nobody had anticipated was that one of Dex's regular ferry routes would, on a gray Tuesday in October, include a passenger with a 14-year operational record in naval special warfare, and a dog who had completed 2 tours and 3 classified deployments before being retired into Trent's care. The RCMP held Dex and his associates on the ferry for 6 hours. The lean man in the red jacket, his name was Cameron, 26, 2 priors, decided somewhere in the 2nd hour that his loyalty to Dex was not worth what he was currently being offered. He started talking. He talked about the ferry routes and the collection schedules and the man who received the money and the address to which the money went. The address was a distribution warehouse in Delta. They executed the warrant at 4:47 in the morning, 2 days later. Taggart was there. He had not expected that. He had expected, as men like him always expect, that the distance he had placed between himself and his operations was sufficient. He had expected that a robbery on a ferry was a robbery on a ferry, small and ignorable, nothing that moved upward. He had not accounted for the teenager with the phone, or for Cameron's decision in the 2nd hour, or for the fact that the statement given by a petty officer first class carries a particular weight in court that is difficult to argue around. Not every threat announces itself. Most of them sit quietly in corners, watching, until the moment they are needed. Trent knew none of this until 3 weeks later, when Constable Reyes called him at his sister's place in North Vancouver. The kids had just finished dinner. There were crayon drawings drying on the kitchen table. Atlas was asleep on the living room rug, one ear twitching at something in a dream. His sister handed him the phone, and he stepped outside onto the porch. The mountains across the inlet were just visible in the last of the evening light, their peaks holding a thin line of snow. Reyes told him about the warehouse. She told him about Taggart. She told him that Cameron's testimony had been central, and that the operation had been ongoing for 2 years, and that it was over. Trent listened. He watched a cargo ship moving slowly across the inlet. "I wanted to let you know," Reyes said, "because honestly, we were 2 more months from maybe getting nothing. And then you happened to be on that ferry." Trent was quiet. "There were 9 people in that cabin," she said. "We spoke to all of them. The elderly gentleman, his name is Harold, by the way. He told me to pass along his thanks, and he said he had never seen anything like it in his life. He said you didn't even look alarmed." Trent thought about Harold. He thought about the way the man's wife had put her hand on his arm, keeping him still, protecting him the only way she could. "Tell him I said hi," Trent said. Reyes laughed a little. Then, "How's the dog?" Trent looked through the glass patio door at Atlas, sprawled on the rug, feet moving now in the dream. His sister's youngest had draped a small knitted blanket over his back without waking him. "He's doing all right," Trent said. "Getting spoiled. Good," Reyes said. "He's earned it." After he hung up, Trent stood on the porch for a while. The cargo ship had moved past the bend in the inlet and disappeared. The mountains were gone now into the dark. The kitchen light was warm behind the glass. He didn't think about the ferry. He didn't think about Dex or Cameron or Taggart or the warehouse in Delta. He thought about Atlas twitching in a dream on a borrowed rug with a child's blanket on his back, and about Harold smoothing his crossword on his knee after he picked it up off the floor, and about the way a Tuesday on a ferry can turn into something else entirely without asking your permission. He went back inside. Atlas opened one eye. Trent sat on the floor beside him and put his back against the couch. Atlas put his chin on Trent's leg. The kitchen was warm. His sister was washing dishes, talking about nothing in particular. Her voice steady and ordinary and exactly what it needed to be. Some things do not need to be spoken about to be understood. Some things are carried quietly, like a dog at your side, like a name no one knows, like 14 years of work done in the dark so that the people in the light can stay there. Trent closed his eyes. Atlas was already back in his dream.